course at the Cecil B. Day School of Hospitality at Georgia State University. And our first speaker this fall is Mr. Russel Weiner. And why I'm so excited about this is I've known Mr. Weiner for quite a while. He used to come to my class at Cornell, and he's such a dynamic and amazing person and represents such an amazing brand, Domino's Pizza. So Mr. Weiner has served as Chief Operating Officer and President of Domino's since Domino's US since July 2020. In this role, Mr. Weiner oversees the Global Centers of Excellence teams responsible for marketing, operations, store growth and development, franchise relationships, analytics and insights, and e-commerce in the US. Mr. Weiner also serves on the board of directors of the Clorox Company. Prior to joining Domino's in 2008, Mr. Weiner led the marketing for Pepsi's North America Cola business. He's won numerous advertising awards and marketing accolades, and he was fundamental to turning around Domino's after joining Domino's as Chief Marketing Officer in 2008. If any of you, my class has read the Domino's case, the Harvard Business School case, and it's just a really amazing turnaround story for the brand. Domino's is now the market leader in not only pizza delivery, but delivery and ordering technology, systems, and analytics. Mr. Weiner's earned a Bachelor's of Arts in Government from Cornell University and an MBA in Marketing and International Business from New York University Stern School of Business. So let's give Mr. Weiner a Panther welcome to Georgia State University. Thank you so much for joining us today. So we're going to start this Q&A with student questions. And the first set of questions really revolve around work-life balance, managing a huge organization like Domino's. And our first student who's going to answer a question is Maddie. So Maddie, if you would like to turn on your camera and go ahead and ask that question. Any luck?
Okay, sorry, it wouldn't let me unmute. Okay, hi, nice to meet you. I'm Maddie Lester. I don't know why it says Madeline there, but that's okay. My question was, in what ways did your educational background in government help prepare you for the role that you're in now?
Thanks for the question. And first, hi, everyone. I really wanted to be there in person. This COVID thing is starting to become a real, you know what. Although when people are home on video calls, they do order pizza. So I guess, there's and they do buy a lot of Clorox wipes to wipe things down. So anyway, thanks for the question. I think, interestingly enough, I was a government major. The reason I was a government major was because it had the fewest requirements and I had no idea what I wanted to do. So there was nothing very strategic about it. What I tell folks that I ended up starting my career in marketing, but I never actually took a marketing class. There's a whole story about how I did that, and if anyone's interested, I can let you know. But what my college career was a series of checking things off the list that I didn't want to do, like things that I thought I wanted to do, but I very quickly realized, like, heck, if I'm doing this stuff for the rest of my life, I better love it. And so was pre-med, didn't love it, was pre-law, didn't love it, and only had 4 years, 2 years left to graduate, and so hence the government major. I do think, though, that actually, for business, and I actually started my career in marketing, actually having a background with all of those different places. I also grew up in a pretty diverse area. I grew up in the Bronx in New York, and so I feel like that background and everything from the psychology to the biology to the English to the art history actually really does help me, because unless you're going to be a generalist in your position, then really being able to understand and appreciate all aspects of the business and the people that you're working with are really important. So short of, I learned how to write, I guess, pretty well as a government major, but the bigger thing for me is this idea of, as you start out your career, there's so much pressure to be put on what am I going to do, that I know a lot of people who actually chose the wrong thing, but they felt that they had to stick with what they had. And this idea that you're always developing, you're always learning, and as long as you're checking something off the list or on the list that you do or don't want to do, that is progress. So that's what I'd leave you with. Yeah.
Great. Beata has a question. Beata, you there?
I can drink my coffee.
There you go. Beata, otherwise I'll ask the question on Beata's, on behalf of Beata. Okay, I'll ask the question. Beata asks, how do you balance your personal life with such a prominent and demanding position? What do you recommend college students do when entering their careers in terms of balance? So how do you balance that? You have a family.
Yeah, I think everyone, when I think of balance, I think of like a teeter, do they still call them teeter-totter? Ben, I don't know. When you're in the park and like you're on one side and someone else is on the other side, and it's got the little fulcrum in the middle, and that fulcrum is different for everybody. Everyone's balance is in a different place. And so the last thing I would ever want to do is tell people that your balance needs to be my balance or my balance needs to be your balance. What you need to do is find where your balance is. If you're lucky, and again, I started out very unlucky because I didn't know what I wanted to do until after I graduated, but you end up doing something you love. And so for me, when I'm not at home, which when I'm at home with my family, obviously I love that. I'm addicted to my job. I love my job. I mean, it would be cool to be a rock star or maybe a baseball player or something, but short of those two things, being able to love what you do moves that fulcrum, and so I never really feel like I'm giving up one for the other. Both are incredibly fulfilling to me. So that I'm happy to go in if Beata wants me to answer that more in depth. But my big thing is, find that career that you're going to love, where your fulcrum can go wherever you want it to be, and then you don't have to worry about that balance. I would say though, as you get further up in your career, if you choose to lead, companies, and that's that is a very much an energy giving position, right? Your job is to kind of energize folks, and it does, it does take time, right? And it does take dedication, and so if those are the jobs that you want, that you need to be prepared to give the time that you would have wanted when you were at lower levels at the company, right? And so I see that as a big, awesome responsibility that jazzes me up, but you have to want to do it. And like I said, so it depends where your fulcrum is. But the best piece of advice I could give you is just do something you love, and then that fulcrum can always change depending on where you are in your life. Do something you love.
Awesome. And if you guys have questions, you can also put them in the chat as well, and we're going to manage those after we've gone through kind of the regular set of questions. Breland, you have a question for Mr. Weiner? Breland, are you there?
I think she's unmuting. I had the same problem, Breland. Don't worry.
Okay. Yeah, that's what it was. They wouldn't let me unmute. Hi, Mr. Weiner. My name is Breland. So my question was, what is one business decision that you would regret or would change if you could?
One business decision. That's a good question. Really, what I'd say first is if there are no really regrets, I think I'll give you an answer, but I know I need to give you an answer. But to me, the process of decision making needs to understand that you're not always going to make the right decision. And so it's really important, I think, that you make it based on your values, so folks understand why you're making the decision, that you articulate, the reasons, and that you have the best interests of your team and the business at heart. Because there are things, I'll give you an example of one in a second, that probably wasn't the best decision in the world, but I learned from it. So I guess that's what it is. So I've been pretty lucky in that I obsess over data. And so when I make a decision, or when I with the team, I try to be pretty well informed. And so luckily, there have been no, I mean, knock on wood, if this happens after this meeting and I fail big time, I'm coming down to Atlanta and I'm going to take you to task. But I can't tell you how important that is, right? You don't want to be paralyzed. You don't want to make the wrong decision. You need to be able to make quick decisions. But if you do them based on data versus subjectively, you won't have any big failures. You know, one example of one that people thought was going to be a big failure was when I started running marketing at Domino's. We had this idea about how to completely change the brand. People thought at that point we're a pizza company and they thought our pizza stunk. Well, you guys read the thing, right? So one of the things we did was we went on air and we told people, you know, our pizza stinks. We know it. We listened to you. We're going to change it. And everyone thought that was a huge risk and that was stupid. You got to see the articles that were written then. But we had all the data. We did the testing on the product. We did testing on the ads. And so we knew all that was going to work. Believe it or not, the mistake I made, and I'm sure that I'm going to think of a lot more, but big business, you know, mistakes. Now so many are coming up in my head from earlier in my career. Because by the way, you're going to make a lot of silly mistakes along the way. So I won't. I mean, my whole career is filled with things I wish I didn't do, but I'm going to try to give you one that wasn't just a mess up, but like that I thought was a good idea, but it wasn't, because I think it says a little bit more about the process. So while we were trying to turn around the company, one of the things we thought we would do is we had this new pizza that we would compare our pizza to the taste of, you know, the competitors, and with a taste test. And so we took this ad that we had on TV that was tearing up the airwaves, this "Our Pizza Stinks" ad. And because the plan was we were only running it for 2 weeks, and then we were going to do the competitive ad that says our product tastes better than the competition, we stuck with that plan and we ran the competitive ad. And the first one, which was the "Our Pizza Stinks" ad, which, because we test all our spots, I can tell you is still the highest rated ad of all time. We only ran it for 2 weeks. We ran it for 2 weeks because that was the plan, which is so stupid. We should have run it for 2-3 months. And so I don't even know where we would have been had we kept it on. But I think that's, you know, part of what you need to do in business is have the flexibility to break the plan, even when the plan is what you've committed to. So that's probably one. And then related to that, we ran this spot comparing ourselves to our competitors, and, you know, it didn't work. It was a bad spot. And just what the other learning was, you know, talk about yourself, make sure your proposition is the best one. This is not a world, I mean, politics aside, would they love to talk about the negatives on all sides. When you're running your business, focus on how to optimize yourself and how to talk about yourself, and don't worry about the externals. And so those are probably two of my many mistakes. One is sticking with the plan when I shouldn't have. And the second is worrying about the competition versus how do we make ourselves better.
Awesome. Trey has a question, a little bit about your work. Trey, you there?
Yes. Hey, Mr. Weiner.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. That doesn't say Trey though.
I know, it's a nickname.
All right, I like it though. Look, when you have the last name Weiner, you look for nicknames all the time. So
Right.
I'm going to go by Trey then too.
Okay, well, thank you. So my question is, what does your typical workday consist of? Like, is every day the same as far as your schedule?
No, every day is completely different, which is what I like about it. I can get bored doing the same thing. So yeah, I mean, a typical day, there is really not a typical day. I mean, some days I'll be working with investors, you know, fly to meet different people and businesses around the country or around the globe. Actually, now it's around the country because we can't really leave the States. Creative stuff from a marketing perspective, you know, analytical things when we think of pricing decisions we want to make, or technology related. So yeah, you know, I think some folks like a career where they can go really deep in one thing. I kind of like going horizontally. So I can't really give you a typical day. But that's what makes it so much fun. I don't know if that answers, if that answers your question, but I swear to you, I don't. Just ask my wife. Like, she's, you know.
So Russell, if you were going to advise students in terms of their skill sets that they should be working on to prepare them for working at a company like Domino's, you know, global company, a company that, you know, has lots of different areas of growth, what skill sets do you find are the most important ones when you look for from college graduates or employees?
You know, I'll give you two answers. So the college graduate one, and then more what skills you should be working on throughout your careers. And look, everyone is different, but when I look for college graduates, I look for folks who are well-rounded. You know, a lot of people will want, you know, hey, what was your major in? Is it exactly what you're applying for? I don't care. When you're out of college, it's just a matter of, you know, what have you done to at least show that you're interested in this area. But I'm not, hey, if you want to, I mean, it's amazing that you're in the hospitality school, but we certainly will look at resumes outside of hospitality. So I think it's demonstrated interest, but also kind of a broad background, because this will be your first job, but you don't know where you're going to end up. I mean, I think that the classes that I use most, you know, when I think about, you know, back to school, are probably my psychology classes, the presentation classes, right? How to talk in front of how to write a compelling presentation and how to give it and articulate it. And so, like, you know, I spent the first 20 years of my life in marketing. I think I said this earlier, I never took a marketing class. You know, I won Marketer of the Year in 2010, and I never took a marketing class. And I'd say that not to brag at all, but just to say, like, you can attain the skills you need along the way as you're making the journey, as long as you continue to challenge yourself and put in front of yourself, you know, situations that, you know, continue to stretch you. As far as, you know, in your career, the thing that I see, you know, missing in a lot of folks is just kind of what I call platform skills. And the platform skills would be exactly kind of what we're doing now. And you may think I'm doing a really bad job, so maybe my are the platform skills you want. But look, at the end of the day, if you're running a business, you know, whether it's a hotel or a restaurant or a car company or whatever it is, if you want to eventually lead that business, your job is to get in front of folks and help them understand what the vision is and how are you going to get there, and get them really excited about it. And some of the smartest people I know certainly did better than me on the SAT and, you know, in classes and all that kind of stuff, but they don't have the platform skills. You know, it will be limiting. Now they still have, you know, amazing career trajectories. It may more be kind of back of house type stuff. But I think if your desire one day is to run a company, just make sure you're doing enough in your background to give yourself plenty of, you know, when Professor Lawrence says, who wants to get up and present, and like no one wants to be first, be first. You know, if there are classes you can sign up for on how to give succinct presentation, not, you know, I always tell people when you're giving and writing a presentation, remember your job is to tell people what time it is, not tell them how to build a clock. If that makes sense. And I think too many times when people get up, it's kind of a regurgitation of everything and they lose you on the story, versus tell me what I need to know. So those platform skills, I think, other than just the important skills in your area of interest, but platform skills, both written and verbal, I think are really important.
Awesome. And Russell, the students here today, they're from all over the campus. They take the franchising course, but they're not all in hospitality. So we have IT majors, we have finance majors. I think, one of the things that I try and tell them is a company like Domino's has room for everybody, right? So it's a franchise company that's looking for the best technology people, the best marketing people, the best finance people. And that's one of the reasons why I think everyone should take a franchising course, because it's a fundamental way of basically distributing products. And so I think that's why, a company like Domino's is such a great example of a franchise company, because even though you sell pizza, you do it in such an innovative way. So so we're going to shift focus a little bit. We're going to go ask some marketing questions. Britt,
Can I build on that?
Yeah,
Though,
yeah, absolutely.
I think that's a great point. Is as you all think about, obviously I'm going to give a plug for Domino's in a second, but I'm actually going to not talk about Domino's. Just as you guys think about your careers, remember, your first job is not the most important decision that you make. I think the first company is. Because as someone who, two of the many jobs I've had in my career when I've changed companies, the job I actually applied for and got was actually different than the time that I showed up. So it's really important and this calls for not only your first job, but if you're ever to leave your company and go to a different company, don't leave just for the different job or the different paycheck. Because again, the job can change. The people running the business can not be who you thought they would be. And so just make sure you're always looking at the company in totality versus just the job. And then I'd tell you is, Domino's is a great example of that, as are other, franchise companies. But you talked IT. The biggest department we have in our entire company is our IT department. People are always amazed at that. But the nice thing about working for a company with all of these cross-functional areas is, as you're growing your career, if, let's say you're in finance now and, you kind of will look at what the marketing people are doing and think, oh, that's kind of interesting. Well, you don't have to leave the job and go back to business school. That you can just say, hey, can I get a transfer into this area? And, that there's a lot of folks, who did that, including myself. And so making sure that the leadership of a company has people who go on Glassdoor and all of those websites, and just the leadership is so important. I worked at companies where it wasn't great, and your life can be miserable even if you're in the sexiest job on the planet. So you work for the company, not just for the job. And going to a place that's got all of these career opportunities means that if you change your mind, again, the finance example before, you don't have to convince another total different company, hey, I'm in finance, but I want to try marketing, give me a shot. You do it within the company you've already proven yourself too. So going to a company that's got a lot of options helps you develop a career without having to move around a lot.
It's a great point. Thank you. So Britt, do you have a question about marketing?
Yes, I noticed, thanks for being here, by the way. I noticed a big difference between the website of the European Domino's and the US Domino's, like the layout and the aesthetic. Yeah, why is that? And do the master franchises have any say in this?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a few answers to that. So one, just so it sounds like you've done your research, which is awesome. Outside of the US, and we have more Domino's outside of the US than inside of the US, there are companies that are considered the master franchise for that country. And many of them, 5 of them actually, for Domino's, are actually public companies in and of themselves. And then they can actually either open up Domino's or sub-franchise, if they want. And so, and what country in Europe were you looking at? Which one? Oh, you're on mute. All right. Well, it doesn't matter.
Brit's from the Netherlands, so
Okay,
she's
perfect.
visiting Georgia State right now, and so
Got
she
it.
was really interested in that difference.
Yes. So I know the Netherlands very well. So their website, so they're owned by a different master franchise. And actually the folks who own the Netherlands also own Japan, Italy, Australia, New Zealand, 7 or 8 countries. And so they actually have their own online platform. And so what you're seeing at the front is just the Netherlands version of their integrated platform. Now, at some point, I think, we can be that platform where everyone else has a face that's different. Now, remember, you as a customer though, so what we do a lot is something called A/B testing. And so A/B testing example, let me try to give you an example. What should we have on the homepage? Should we have a picture of a pizza with pepperoni or a plain pizza? Should the fonts be in red? Should the fonts be in yellow? We are constantly doing testing. You'll probably never be seeing the same homepage when you go to the homepages. We're always testing. And so other than the platforms being different, which again, at some point, I hope to be a little bit more unified, what you see as a customer is based on the results of A/B testing in that country. So if red is the good color for the order button in the US, it doesn't mean that it is in the Netherlands. So some of it is kind of back-end oriented, and a lot of it's just driven by consumer preference in that country.
And you guys do a lot of analytics back of house, right? So you're a market leader in terms of understanding how the consumer reacts to that. And I think that's from way back when we first met, that was a focus of yours, even before a lot of companies weren't really focused on that, right?
Yeah, when I came to Domino's, we had a total of 1 person in market research. And now we have 60 just in the US, probably over 100 around the world. And we're not just doing regular market research, we're doing machine learning and AI. And I like the example I always give people is I always like to know the answers to a test before I go in and take it. And that's what, analytics lets you do. Back to the how do you make sure mistakes are as you don't make as many of them as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things we've talked about in class is that, one thing about franchise companies is that they can invest in this technology, and then the franchisee doesn't have to really understand all that stuff, right? They're just given this platform to basically focus on the customer and sales, and companies like yours have done a great job. Some other companies aren't doing as much because it's expensive, right, to invest in all that.
Well, yeah, I feel really strongly about what you're talking about, and I'll talk to a few things here. One is, name me any company who outsources their competitive advantage. You can't. It's not a competitive advantage if you outsource. So if someone's making your website, for you, then it's not going to be your competitive advantage. If someone's doing your research for you, it's not going to be your competitive advantage. And so our feeling was, where do we want to differentiate ourselves? And in those areas, we can't outsource. We need to develop that internally. And then the nice thing about being a global franchise company is, we can invest in things and then sell them to our franchisees. The franchisees would never be able to get anything this good if they were going on their own. We make money when they make money, so we don't need to make money specifically on these things. All we need to do is cover our costs. And so if we figure out where we want our competitive advantage, and if that's where we invest, then we're making our whole system better for a price that's more than any of them could spend on their own. But when they come together, it's a heck of a lot less. So our online ordering system is significantly less money than, let's say, if we were to go on to DoorDash or any of those other platforms. I mean, significantly.
Yeah, and I think that one of the mistakes a lot of franchise companies have made is they've outsourced that function, and now they can't get it back. And so I think that's unique to Domino's, and you see this a lot, I think, in smaller franchise brands that don't have the ability to kind of use that they have limited resources, and so and during the pandemic, this has really made a huge difference, right?
And look, everyone has limited resources. Again, you just have to make your strategic decisions. When we brought this in-house, we were less than half the size of the company we are now. We just decided that this was something we wanted to differentiate ourselves in, and we went after it. So yeah, you can't do everything, but you do want to be forward thinking and figure out, whether it's for a franchise or any business, is what do we need to do to differentiate ourselves? And that's where you invest. You don't need to have all the money in the world. And by the way, some of these things help you make money. Like once we built this online system, what we found is people spend more money when they're online versus not. Labor goes down because you don't need people to answer phones and stuff like that. You can use things like machine learning algorithms to figure out what they want, so you can make it before they even order it, so your times get better. The investment actually brings down the cost of everything.
So we're going to move on to another question from Kyandra. Is she on there?
Hi, Mr. Weiner. How are you?
Hi. Good. Russel.
My question is, can you elaborate more on your approach to innovation and marketing? Also, what was your process for coming up with new ideas, and how did you implement them?
Got it. So two things. One, I already answered, is that I really do try to, base all of the, I love to ideate. I love to come up with ideas, but I hate going into places where people are like, okay, today, let's come up with ideas. Everyone take a squishy ball, and no idea is a bad idea. And then we have this big brainstorming. No, you gotta, if you want an idea, it's got to be based on an insight, right? So let's figure out what those insights are. That's ideate, and then let's test those ideas. So I do like ideation, but it's got to be based on insights. I particularly like a process to come up with big ideas that it was taught to me by someone earlier in my career. I'm sure it's written in a book somewhere. I just don't know the name of the book. But the idea is looking at something called attention. And there are tensions in different brands. There are tensions in society. There are tensions in categories. So the example I'll give you is the idea for the campaign where we said our pizza stinks back in 2010. Mm-hmm. There was a brand tension at the time that was very similar to that actually broke a societal tension. So think about it, what attention is. Attention is something that everyone feels kind of uncomfortable talking about, right? Mm-hmm. And so our brand tension back in 2009 was, we're a pizza company and our pizza stunk, right? That's attention, like that's bad. That's on the brand side. On the societal side, what was going on in society at that point, and I know you guys all were young back then, but what was going on was there were businesses that were going under. So a lot of the car companies were sending their CEOs down to Washington, D.C. to ask for bailouts. And by the way, they were flying down and saying they had no money, but they're flying down in their corporate jets, which that's attention, right? People were losing there was a mortgage crisis, banks went under, Lehman Brothers, all that kind of stuff. So what was going on in society is that everyone felt like they were being lied to by these institutions, by governments, by banks, by companies. So everyone felt they were being lied to with the societal tension. We had a lie or a truth ourselves, which was our pizza stunk. And our feeling was that if we break the societal tension and the brand tension at the same time, that's a big idea. So if everyone in the world wants someone to tell them the truth, why can't it be us? Mm-hmm. And granted, it's only pizza. It's not world hunger. It's not world peace. It's not anything. But when everyone wants someone to be honest, you can be a little pizza company. And then what happens is all that built up tension in the world of people wanting someone to be honest, we get all that as a tailwind behind us. And so when we ran that campaign, that was the idea. It's like, we're going to have not just the power of our advertising message, but the power of breaking this tension come in. And like the example, I think, so people then always ask me, like, what are some tensions now in society? And I think there's a great book, which you don't need to read now, but I'm telling you the premise of it. It's Thomas Friedman, New York Times writer. It's called Thank You for Being Late. And what he talks about, if you were to draw an imaginary kind of XY graph, so can you see my XY graph? What he talks about is there's a line, people's ability, human beings, we are basically the same human beings as we were, tens and thousands of years ago. We may dress better, our breath may not smell as bad, we have our teeth, but like we're the same. We're built the same way. And we're able to consume and learn just about the same as they were, back when they were walking around with, fig leaves over their privates. And so if the line here is this line of ability to consume and learn new stuff, well, then the other line is the progress of technology, right? You guys all know Moore's law, right? Moore's law is the speed of a chip doubles every 2 years. Well, now you got Moore's law on top of cloud computing on top of this, and so the change in technology around us is completely different. Like when I started out in my career, when I applied to college, on a typewriter. Yes, I know. I'm that old. And so what's happened is the lines have crossed. So this is, call it the line of tolerance to understand and contemplate and just take in new information. This line that's coming up this way is the progress of technology. And so what happened is we're now kind of up here, meaning that technology has moved faster and is moving faster than we can take in and learn, and it's leaving many people behind. And when people feel left behind, they do some of the things that we're seeing them do in society right now, whether it's, pick your side, all sides are doing it, because they feel left behind. And so the question is for you as a brand, so us as a brand, what do we do? How can we break that tension? Well, we leverage that tension by saying, all right, if all these people in the world think that technology is leaving them behind and they're just kind of ashamed and afraid of it, and how can we help that? Well, what we do is we launch things like, if you want to order Domino's, you can tweet us your order. You can send us a pizza emoji, we'll send you a pizza. We do have all these cool different technologies that we advertise. 20 different ways to order Domino's. Hardly anyone uses them. People use the phone or they go online. Hardly anyone tweets, hardly anyone this or that or that. But guess what? When the pizza comes to your house and you put the Domino's box on the table, people don't know how you ordered it. And so you could say, oh yeah, of course I tweeted, got my pizza delivered by Domino's. And so a lot of these innovations that we launch thinking about that tension in mind, that folks are going to want people around them to perceive that they understand technology, even though they really don't. And so how can that box of Domino's on your table, whether you understand tech or not, represent, I kind of do understand this stuff? Because then you have a little air cover when below you're really all nervous that you're being left behind. So I don't know if that's, usually I have about 10 pages to explain that in a deck. But I don't know if that made sense, but that's how I come up with ideas. Really get the facts. What are our tensions? What are societal tensions, and how you break them?
Yeah, that's great. Well, I'll follow up with the students, talk about that a little more. Doug Holt and his book "How Brands Become Icons" is one that maybe they want to read. They talk a lot about those tensions, and I think that's a lot of these companies, a lot of the really great brands out there are continually looking at that, right? They're looking at like how can they position themselves around attention, and then that can last for a while, right? So,
and actually another concept I came away from was when I was meeting with the folks at Google, was a top to top at Google, and we were talking about an idea we wanted to do together, and how big we can make it. And one of the founders actually said, well, we got to figure out how we 10x it. I'm like, what's 10x? And what he said was, well, how do you make it 10 times bigger than you think it's going to be? Because if you just try to make incremental change, by the time you've made that change, you're actually behind again. And so this idea of how do you make something, how do you 10x it? How do you make it 10 times? It may not end up 10 times the size, but if you don't go through that exercise, you're not going to be anything more than incremental. So that idea, I think, is also kind of an interesting one.
Great. Well, since we're on technology, we're going to shift a little bit. We're going to introduce some students who are going to talk a little about technology. Alex, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, Alex, go ahead.
Hello, Mr. Russell. I had a question about if Domino's is potentially considering VR or AR as an ordering method in the future.
Yeah, we've done virtual and augmented reality more as kind of marketing plays than as, there are definitely some niches there that people want to go deep on. As far as a mainline campaign, all I'll say is that, if we were to have this meeting next year, there'd be something I'd be able to reference. So there will be something that you may see next year that, Alex, that you can say, oh, this is what Russell was talking about. But in general, I'd say those things tend to be a little bit more niche than general market, but we do have something this time next year that you hopefully will like, is all I can tell you.
Great. Mike, do you have your question? Mike there? Mike?
Yeah, hi, I'm sorry. Hi, thanks for speaking with us today. My question is about technology and its applications of being a technology company. Has there ever been an instance where Domino's developed the technology that they then deployed in other businesses outside of pizza delivery?
Well, I mean, from the question, before on, Britt's question on, our master franchisees, the cool thing is every time we create, we are the master franchisee in the US, if that makes any sense, right? And so a lot of the tech that we come up with here, not only can we sell to our US franchisees, but we can sell globally. And we got 19,000 stores around the world. And so that is a big opportunity for us. We do get approached a lot on, some of our POS systems and whether or not, by restaurants that you would know. But we think that this stuff is kind of our secret sauce. And so even though we could make money off of it, we'd rather keep it as a competitive advantage. So yeah, we do get approached, but short of selling to kind of our brothers and sisters, our cousins, our relatives kind of within the Domino's system, we purposely don't for that reason.
So when you think about that, your expertise in delivery, there's obviously individuals in the company that might say, well, we want to spin that off into another company or do something that would leverage that. And why wouldn't we be the Uber? Like in sense that you have, you're basically competing with that, right? Competing with those companies. Is there any thought that you would take that technology and create another brand? Or and also in that question, what are your thoughts about virtual brands and ghost brands and how that's going to play into the future of all this delivery and technology?
All right. Well, remember the second question because I may forget it. I'm not good at the 1-2, but I'll start with the first one. Yeah, I'd be lying if I didn't say that I thought of many times along the way as to whether or not we should play in that game. We could deliver other people's. Actually, it's interesting. Someone had made Ben, maybe this was you who said this before that I just wanted to reiterate, because for those of you who are getting into franchising, this is a great point that I did want to hit on, then I'll get into the delivery piece, is that, I find that every time that we take work out of our stores that our franchisees no longer need to do, it makes them better at operating their restaurant. So for example, our franchisees used to make dough in the back of their house, in the back of, the restaurant, that house. Back of house is kind of a restaurant, in the back of the restaurant. Well, then we started making a supply chain center, and we make it all. So suddenly that's a lot less for them to do. Guess what? Their operations got better. They were able to hire and keep people more because the job was a little bit more simple. Other thing, when I first started, a lot of the advertising was done locally by our restaurants. And we said, hey, we can do it better. Give us 3/4 of the money, keep the rest, have it go to the bottom line, and we'll do it better for you. We took that work out. Not only was it better because we have advertising experts, but that was something they didn't have to work on. Next, technology. Hey, let's do this online ordering thing so you people don't have to answer a phone. So every time we take work out of the stores, it lets them be better operators. And so, as you think about I have one franchisee who posed it really well, is that a lot of times people who are running the restaurant think, oh, let's just have the stores do it. Just have the stores do it. And he calls it, don't give me too many just stuff. Like, just have the stores make the dough. Just have the stores make the, answer the phone. Just. Our job is to take the justas away, to have them focus, on what the job is today. So with that so I wanted to reiterate, that was a super important point. So as you talk about then, wouldn't the next thing maybe to think about doing is taking the delivery away from them and having them just make the pizza, and us being the people who create this company that picks it up and delivers it to people's house, and maybe even does it for other brands as well. And we'll see how this whole thing ends up, at the end of the day. But what I would tell you is on the food delivery aggregator side, if you just look at the economics, just look at the annual reports of these companies, even through the pandemic, right? During the pandemic, I mean, the amount of orders going through these aggregators probably going to be higher than it will be in most future years. They still were, they were losing money, and their margins weren't anywhere near kind of where ours were. And so what I tell you is the price of delivering food is more expensive than you think. So we lose money every time we deliver pizza. We don't lose money, but let's say, I'm going to make up, delivering something costs this. The delivery fee reimbursed by consumers is this different eats into our margin. Now, what aggregators do is they bring in somebody else to eat at that same margin, right? So we got a customer, we got a store, and we got us, Domino's. What you do when you add an aggregator is you add a fourth mouth to feed. So someone's going to be paying that price. Either the margins of the restaurants are going to go down, and you're seeing lawsuits and stuff kind of on the coast now on, hey, you're charging 20, 30%, that's too much. We actually at Domino's we just put an ad out now on hidden fees, because someone's got to pay the difference between the cost of the delivery and the delivery fee. And what we're seeing in some of these delivery aggregators is it says delivery fee, tax, etc. Well, you double click on the etc. and you see all these other fees, and what looks like free delivery ends up being an $11 delivery. And so that Mike, that's the long way of saying that we absolutely did look at it. It's hard to understand how the economics would work, especially for fresh food. So for example, like if I'm a Walmart and I've got 4 hours to deliver to your house and the food's not going to go bad, right? That's very different than if I'm a fast food place or like a sushi restaurant or a Domino's, and I need the product to get to you within 30 minutes. Otherwise, it's going to be cold and soggy and not taste good. So I do think delivery can work, and some of the retail delivery stuff you're seeing works. But fresh food, it's just really tough because of the time constraint and the margin constraint. So as you can tell, definitely thought about it, but that's why we have it.
Ainsley had a question, I think, to follow up. You might have already answered it, but about some delivery. Ainsley, you there?
Yeah, okay, so my question kind of touches on both technology as well as the pandemic. Given that economists are predicting that we won't be back to our pre-pandemic ways until about 2024 or 2025. Do you think that the presence of those third-party food delivery options like the Uber Eats and Grubhub, do you think that they'll further challenge Domino's delivery model more than it already does today?
Wow, that's a good question. You should be an analyst. You know, ask.
Given considering it.
You know, I think that I think anyone who says they know when the pandemic is going to be over, I don't think anyone knows when or if it's going to be over. And actually, the thing that I've been starting to think about as the pandemic kind of continues to move is where we're going to end up. And these are the bets that if we knew the answers to this, we'd be in a great place. I think post-pandemic, things are going to be one of two. They're going to be either we're going to find out post-pandemic that things have become endemic, right? So, hey, I'm now ordering food at home. I didn't do it prior to the pandemic. I really like it. That ain't going away, right? That behavior. So that's the endemic answer. The other, and I like it because it rhymes with pandemic, kind of, is elastic, which is, hey, I tried it during COVID, but now that COVID's over, I don't want to spend this extra money for the high delivery fee, so I'm not going to do it anymore. And so what we don't, even if we did know the last, when officially no one's going to have it anymore, if that day ever comes, what we don't know ahead of time is what is going to be endemic versus elastic. Like, so for example, one of the things people are doing now, in addition to ordering delivery more, is they're actually buying more food. So people are buying more food when they order Domino's now than they did prior to the pandemic, probably so they're going to have leftovers so they don't have to order the next day. Well, ordering more food means the ticket's higher, and that's great for our franchisees. Is that behavior going to continue? I don't know, but that's a big question. So I think it's not only about when or if it's over, it's actually what happens to the behavior that was going to be acquired. I tend to think people make financially sound decisions. Restaurants do, and customers do. And I don't think anyone's going to want to pay more than they should. And so, I do think there'll be some rationalization on some of these fees. They're going to have to be, because without this higher volume and higher ticket, I think it's going to be hard for those companies to sustain those efforts.
So do you think that a company like Domino's, obviously when you come pick up a pizza, it's the best thing for Domino's, right? When you actually drive to the store and pick up the pizza, because you don't have that delivery cost. How is I don't know if that's true or not, but how does a company like Domino's encourage people to come to the store, given that don't have drive-throughs, and that seems like the drive-through and the mechanism to facilitate that in a very quick way. Chick-fil-A is really good at that, right? And so they've really done really well in facilitating that. What are your thoughts on that in terms of Domino's?
Yeah, well, before I came to Domino's, all we did was pretty much deliver pizza. We didn't do carry out at all. In fact, our model was find a piece of real estate where no one can actually find the store, because the real estate is going to be so cheap, you're going to deliver it to people anyway, and that way your overhead is low and you're in a good place. But believe it or not, the delivery or the carryout business, the takeaway pizza business, is 2.5 times as big as the delivery business. And so it became very clear to me when I got here was that, this is a huge source of volume for us. That's just in pizza. The other interesting thing is if you look at our carryout business, so we've started advertising that we're open for carryout since 2011, and we actually did a bunch of ads around the tension of carryout that at some point I can talk to you about. But we've always been the number one delivery company or not always, but most of the time of our 60 years have been the number one delivery company. We're actually now the number one carryout pizza company in the country, which we were not before. And all of this is trying to find, alternative sources of volume. The interesting thing is the number one place we get carryout volume from is actually not other pizza. We get it from like burger joints. So the interesting thing is that we're finding as we grow carryout, we're actually going into other areas. I mean, certainly we get a lot of pizza, but much more than our fair share of those places. So it becomes clear that, you know, pizza can definitely compete there. Then the question is, all right, well, what do you do? And, you know, we have almost 19,000 stores around the world, but about 6,500 in the US, probably around 1,000 or so have drive-throughs. And they're not like the McDonald's drive-through where you can fit like a semi truck through. There's, you know, you kind of go around the garbage and like, you know, they're small. I mean, our model works because our stores are small, the overhead's low, and we pump out lots of volume. And so this is, again, you know, someone talked about creativity before. So the question was, well, if so many people just you know, when you think about carryout, some folks will walk into a store and leave, but some people don't want to get out of their car. Well, what do we do about that? Well, we can build drive-throughs for the next 5,000 stores, but what that's going to do for this, that's not going to help the first 6,500. So as a technology company, we asked ourselves, well, is there a way to create a virtual drive-through? Basically, so you for all our stores tomorrow can get pizza to folks without people getting out of their car because they don't want to get out of their car because their kids are with them or blah, 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 a whole bunch of reasons. And so we created and we just launched, you know, actually we did this during the pandemic, something called Carside Delivery. And it's not like curbside, but essentially, because, you know, we don't have big parking lots, right? So essentially though, if you order online ahead of time and tell us your car and license plate number, when you get there, we'll know because you broke through the geofence of the area and we'll bring you your pizza out. And that amount of time, we guarantee that we will get the pizza to you in less than 2 minutes in your car or it's free. And we're averaging well under 2 minutes. And if you go to a drive-through, whether it's your Chick-fil-A or whatever now, I would challenge, I mean, obviously they're doing a lot more volume than we are through the drive-through, but you're standing a heck of a lot longer than 2 minutes in those drive-throughs. So carryout's going to be super important as we try to continue to grow, but these innovative ways, because we weren't built as a carryout company, are important. It's a very different customer though, and you know, Ben, I don't want to say it's different kind of money. I don't want to say it's less money. Like people spend more money when they get it delivered versus less. So you've got percentages and dollars, but both are attractive businesses for us.
Awesome. That sounds really innovative. Well, we're out. I don't want to be respectful of your time, and we know we want to get in the Shelby to talk a little bit about work, potentially internships, and your Gold program, which is an amazing program for students. So I'd like just to thank you so much for participating today. The students, you know, to be able to converse with someone like you is an amazing opportunity for my students. And I just want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to do that. And on behalf of GSU and the School of Hospitality, thank you so much.
Thank you guys. This is so much fun for me. I could really do this all day. I wish I could do it in person. And maybe next year, if I get asked to do it again, even if you're not in the class, you can poke your head in.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Russell.
All right. Hopefully I'll see some of you as interns, maybe. Have fun.
Awesome.
All right. Bye-bye.
So we're going to transition now. Let me see. Shelby, are you here?
I am. I'm
Oh,
here.
there you are. Okay, great. So Shelby's going to talk a little bit about internship programs and the Gold program, which is an opportunity, which is a management training program. She's going to share her slideshow. We're going to have a half an hour to talk about that. If the students have questions, do you want them to wait until the end or raise their hand, or how do you want to manage that, Shelby?
I don't know. We can wait till the end if that works.
Okay.
Christina,
Perfect.
does that sound good?
Yeah, sounds
Okay,
good.
awesome. Great. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. My name is Shelby Polidori. I'm a University Relations Specialist here at Domino's, and we are going to be going over programs, internships, and other opportunities for current students and recent graduates at Domino's. So Joining me today is Christina Dreyer. She's one of our great HR business partners, and she's going to be kicking off this presentation to discuss our Global Operations Leadership Development Program, also known as GOLD. So take it from here, Christina.
Thank you. Yeah, so you've heard the acronym GOLD a couple times. That really stands for Global Operations Leadership Development Program. And this is an immersive 4.5-year leadership development program experience for recent college graduates. It's really to help it's designed to prepare and develop future strategic leaders within operations here at Domino's. So next slide, Shelby. It's composed of 7 different key rotations, all with increased complexity as you go throughout. So you rotate throughout these 7 different rotations throughout the 4.5 years of this program. And within these different rotations, you'll learn new skills, overcome challenges, and really grow substantially as a leader while learning the Domino's business from the inside out and from the ground up. So after you rotate through these rotations, then what, right? So next slide, Shelby. The graduation of the program is accepting a position as one of our franchise business consultants. And it can be either based in the US. We have about 45 consultants scattered all across the US that really consult with our franchisees on a day-to-day basis to help grow their business. Or you can be based internationally in one of our 3 international offices in Dubai, Hong Kong, or Amsterdam. So to give you a little bit of a breakdown into the different rotations, let's just dive a little deeper into the 7 that we showed on the screen. So the first one is Operations Immersion. This is a 6-week intensive experience that is designed to teach the fundamentals of Domino's operations. So throughout the 6 weeks, it's a combination of classroom training and real in-store training in a fully operational Domino's pizza store. There's simulated exercises and real-life challenges to help grow your operations knowledge, your decision-making, and your leadership ability. So after those 6 weeks, you are a fully certified assistant manager in one of our stores. So this is the next rotation. You are an assistant manager and you're ready to take things to the next level and really run a Domino's store in one of our 7 corporate markets. In this rotation, you'll be responsible for everything that happens during your shift, including daily operations and service. So you really learn to set the bar high for your crew and deliver exceptional customer service. In this rotation, you can be based in, I mentioned we had 7 corporate markets, but this rotation is either based in our Phoenix market, our Houston market, or our Miami market. So once you spend some time as an assistant manager, you are then promoted to run your own Domino's pizza store and you become a general manager. With this responsibility, you have full profit and loss responsibility. You manage your trend sheets, you manage your numbers, and you'll spend time maintaining inventory, managing your labor, reviewing financial reports, and ultimately leading your team to success. Not only that, but you'll learn to hire, train, and develop, manage and motivate a winning team and help to ensure your staffing levels are up and you're able to provide a great customer experience. So after about a year as a general manager in one of our fully operational pizza stores, the next rotation is about a 3-month stint on our operations compliance team. So this team really is the ins and outs of all of our Domino's standards. They go in and train and evaluate all stores, both franchise stores and corporate stores, to ensure our compliance standards, our compliance policies, and our procedures are met. So not only will you learn the standards, but you'll assist with audits and really play an important role in helping all of our stores across the US to raise their standard scores. After this rotation is the longest rotation of the 4.5 years, which is a manager of corporate operations. So instead of managing and operating one store as in the general manager rotation, you now will manage several stores within assigned regions, so about 7 to 8. You learn to grow a portfolio of successful businesses, and you are fully responsible for their profitability. You'll lead teams, champion managers, and really drive a positive team member and customer experience for our brand. You'll conduct performance evaluations for your managers and supervisors, hold your managers accountable, and really just implement plans to meet your store goals. So it's a really important role that we have. That's why it's the longest within this program, but you really learn everything from managing to growing a business. So it really sets you up for success. The last rotation is the business case analyst. This is about a 3-month cross-functional project that is the final rotation within this program. And so you'll lead a cross-functional project team to analyze a franchisee's business from multiple lenses, meaning marketing, finance, development. Every project will be different, and you'll help to develop a business case and present it to either a franchisee or other key stakeholders or leaders within Domino's with actionable insights to positively impact the state of the business. So once you successfully complete this project, you then move into the final stage of this program, which, as I mentioned earlier, is that franchise business consultant role. This role, it can arguably be one of the most pivotal within the company because you own the franchisee relationships and drive franchisee business results within your assigned market, like I mentioned, either in the US or abroad. You'll be a strategic and influential partner providing leadership and coaching to franchisees to discuss the state of their business and provide them with tactics ultimately to improve their overall sales, their profits, their operations, and their adherence to our Domino's standards. So after all of that, that franchise business consultant is the final step, but then the sky is really the limit on where these folks can go next, whether it's to become a franchisee themselves or continue along the corporate structure within Domino's. So talking through some of the fun stuff of this program, there are a handful of perks aside from the leadership skills that you ultimately gain throughout this program. We have a competitive base salary with bonus opportunities throughout each stage. We provide relocation assistance if you are asked to relocate to one of our corporate markets. We have student loan support and debt forgiveness. We have Shipt membership, which if you're not familiar with that is, it's like a grocery service, kind of like a HelloFresh or a Blue Apron, if you've heard of those. Gym membership subsidies and franchising incentives if after the program you choose to become a franchisee and a business owner yourself. So those are just a few of the perks, like I said, and it's really to help aid in that 4.5-year time throughout this program as you are learning to become a strategic leader. So that's really it on the Gold program. We'll have time for questions after, but I will now pass it over to Shelby to talk through some internships and other entry-level opportunities that we have within the brand.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Christina. So let's move forward to some of the 2022 summer internships. On the left-hand side, you will see the business units that will be asking for internships this coming summer. Our internships consist of a 12-week program running from May through August of next year. Our internships are project-based, so at the end of the program, the interns will be presenting their projects to their department executives. Alongside of that, there will be lunch and learns involved in the internships where the interns can get that networking experience with the company executives. There are also team building activities like volunteering events throughout the community, as well as a mentorship program that the interns will be included on, typically with a team member outside of their department to meet other team members throughout the company and someone they can connect with throughout their internship if they have any questions. Here's a deeper dive into what our 2022 internships look like. we'll be hiring 6 Gold interns. This is different from the full-time Gold program, and I'll be going into this in a second. Within field supply chain, we're hiring 2 interns. One will be at that MBA level in South Texas and an undergrad level in Louisiana. For the WRC supply chain interns, and WRC means World Resource Center. That's our headquarters here in Ann Arbor, Michigan. We will have 2 interns. One will be at the MBA level again with quality assurance, and an undergrad in operations. For our marketing interns for next summer, there will be 3, an undergrad in digital marketing, and then 2 MBA level interns, 1 in product development and 1 in advertising. Under analytics and insights, both areas here, data analytics and consumer insights, will be both MBA level interns. We'll be hiring 3 of them. For communications, there'll be 2 interns, 1 customer support at the MBA level, and 1 in community relations and public relations. And then on to accounting. Both are an undergrad level intern, 1 in cash and 1 in general ledger and ops accounting. And finally, in innovation, we'll be hiring 1 intern at the undergrad level. They'll be focusing at retail and at delivery. So more now into what the Gold interns are involved in. And like I said, it's different from the full-time program that Christina just described. This internship is a 12-week program, similar to our other internships at the WRC, but this program is 100% virtual. It consists of 2 presentations, 1 team project that's around role clarity of a GM position, as well as an individual project. There will be a focus area for each Gold intern, and they will have that mentor as well, like the other internships. And this internship really prepares students for that full-time Gold program. So our hopes are that students that get involved in this internship would like to continue with Domino's and apply for a full-time Gold program. Another great opportunity for recent college grads is our technology rotational program. So this starts every June. So this coming June 2022, we'll be hiring 6 new team members for this program. And like I said, it's open to new college graduates or those graduating this coming spring. What this program is, it's a 2-year rotational program, and it consists of 4 rotations, each lasting about 6 months in length. And it gives the participants this unique blend of technical and leadership development experiences. And it's really designed to transform our top graduates into future IT leaders. So I just wanted to kind of break down what those core rotations would look like. These are include but not limited to the e-commerce development, global store technology, business intelligence and analytics, information security and infrastructure. And one of the cool things about this program is at the end of the program, similar to the Gold full-time program, people are offered that full-time role, an area of their choice combined with the business need. So after the 2 years, you are guaranteed a role within our IT department here at Domino's. And I guess alongside all of these different internships and programs and opportunities we have here at Domino's, we always have entry-level roles being added to our jobs every day. So I just wanted to give you kind of a glimpse into our entry-level roles in these different departments. So in legal, we have franchise services. Accounting, we have that general ledger accountant. Communications, we have our customer support team. A&I, mostly the entry-level roles are those out of a master's, MBA, or PhD program. In supply chain, we have inventory replenishment and production warehouse team. And lastly, in our IT department, we have our global care, also known as our help desk, which is a great entry-level way to get into the company. So like I tell everyone, always keep an eye on jobs.dominos.com. They always have the updated jobs and internships that we will be posting here shortly. And always feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, with Christina as well. I know we have a specific jobs Instagram and Twitter page, so feel free to connect with us on there. And that is the end of our presentation. So we will open it to any questions if anyone has any.
Great. Do you guys have any questions? If you have any questions, you can probably just unmute yourself or ask. This is a great opportunity, I think, to work for a really dynamic company. And as you can see, there's tons of different areas in which you could specialize. Any questions from the group? You see if I can, it's kind of hard to see everybody. Questions? Is there, Shannon, are you still there? Are there any questions coming in? No questions on my end, okay. One of my questions is, it's pretty selective, right? The gold program. I mean,
yeah, it's a pretty selective program just because we only have 6 full-time spots per year. So we really try to target those that have a passion for business or hospitality or the food and beverage space, because recognize it's a little bit of a lengthy program, but so there's no surprise there, but definitely the rewards and the leadership skills folks get is just unmatched from any other leadership development program.
so it's a really selective program, and you really are treated as a special individual within Domino's. And so it's not like other kind of management training programs that basically you're one of 100 people. And I think that that's really important. And they're investing 4.5 years in you. And that's, they're there to support you, and they've obviously selected you because you're, of your specific skills and your interest. And I think if you saw Russell today and how dynamic he is, you have connections with all those executives at Domino's through that gold program. So I think, many of you, I think, are not thinking about Domino's as a potential company, or maybe hopefully this opens up your eyes to the kind of complexity when Russell's talking about machine learning and artificial intelligence. Then they're really cutting edge in terms of those technologies. There is a question about, do you need to be in the gold program to be a franchisee? No, I mean the gold program is one way to access that. Obviously, Domino's is a franchising company, and one thing about this program is it does allow you to take that path if you want it. But certainly, the two paths are either to be a franchisee in Domino's or to work for the corporation. So
one thing I will add there, Alex, is although you do not need to be in the gold program to become a franchisee, we do require our applicants that become a franchisee to be a general manager for at least a year in one of our Domino's stores. So we're a little unique from other brands from that perspective, where you can't just have some money and want to become a franchisee. We actually want to see people work in the stores for a little bit prior to becoming a franchisee. But to answer your question, Ben's correct. You do not need to be in the gold program.
Are there any other questions? Does it matter what we are studying while at GSU?
No, it doesn't. We've hired people with diverse college majors. We typically focus towards folks in either business or hospitality, but we've definitely considered and taken people with diverse majors. So no, it does not matter.
I think with any type of application, it's all about passion and about bringing that passion to the company that you're going to work for. And you guys have a certain skill set, but obviously they're going to be investing 4.5 years in you, which is about maybe longer than when you were actually an undergrad. So that's a huge investment from part of the company. So if they want more information, they can reach out to either of you for that information. Is that correct?
Yep,
yeah, we should have mentioned it. I manage the program from an HR perspective, and Shelby recruits for the program. So either one of us, happy to connect with any of you or answer any other questions on the program for sure.
Awesome. So you guys know where to go to reach out, and hopefully this has been helpful. And I'll post the contact information for you both. Will that be good?
That's
Awesome.
perfect. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. Well, that kind of concludes our discussion today. For my students, if you have questions or concerns, you can stay on the call. We're going to stop the recording now, and I'll do some office hours now if that works for my students. But thank you so much, both of you, for taking the time to talk to us about Dominos today. And thanks again to Russell for participating.
Of course. Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks for
Thank you.
having us. Bye, guys.